So I guess, Abby, do you want to kick off? Thanks, Liz. The meeting minute vote, or and we just began the recording. Thanks, Claire. I was going to mention that. So as you know, I think now is part of our the new meeting law. We're recording and posting our board meetings. And Claire is in person in Montpelier for anyone who wishes to join in person, including the public. Although we do ask that folks let us know in advance so that we can be prepared to open the doors and, you know, make sure, that we're there to receive you in a timely manner. Abby, should I pass it to you for the vote, or do you want me to go ahead and?
Sure, I can do it. I will. Okay. I will also say that we have norovirus or stomach bug in our household also. I'm seem to be hanging in, but I'm not feeling 100% this morning. We got ours when we were in Washington, D.C. over the weekend. So it's been a wild couple of days, but I too will do my best to be present and functional through this whole meeting. And happy to take it over. So Elizabeth sent a great email over the weekend, on Friday, that included the meeting minutes from our January 21st meeting. So if folks could pull those up, or maybe you already had a chance to look at them, let's take a look for a few minutes, and then I'll entertain a vote to accept them. Does anyone need a copy of the minutes put in the chat? Does anyone not have them? Just give everyone just a minute to read. All right, would anyone like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the January 21st? I actually note that it says 2024, so that would be one correction, is that it was January 21st, 2025. Understandable in that it's our first meeting in the new calendar year.
I'll make a motion with that correction. Elizabeth.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Second?
This is Alicia. I'll second that.
Great. Okay, so we have a motion and a second with one addition of changing the date from 2024 to 2025. Let's see. All those in favor, do we do that? Let's forget the Robert's rules.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Moving too quickly, let me know. Great. So I'm hearing the motion passes. A unanimous voice vote. The correction.
All right. I think so. Now I'm going to offer an overview to where we are at with the business enhancement grant opportunity. And then and then we will make a motion, or I'll be looking for, I guess, Abby to make a motion to move us into executive session after this introduction. So as I shared in the email, we received a total request of almost $3.5 million in requested funds for $679,500 of available funds. In the release in the RFA, the call for applications, or the request for applications, the total funding was announced at $620,000. But today we're going to be making decisions based on $679,500 of available funds. And this is because we received a $15,000 donation from Ski Vermont. This is something they've done in the past. They reconnected and participated in a hearing at the State House, and then expressed their desire to begin supporting the program again. So that's, great news. So that's increased our funding by $15,000. And then the remaining increase is due to deobligated funds from FY22. Right now, reviewers, thank you to all of you who are reviewers. So the review cohorts have recommended 12 applications for funding. And you, in the email and also in the spreadsheet, you will see the total funding recommendation per sector, which I know is has been of interest. And thank you again, Lily, for creating that great table. So you can see the totals per sector right now of recommended funding that captures those 12 applications. And reviewers have earmarked another 22 applications for board consideration. In the spreadsheet, those are marked as maybes or yes maybes. The 12 projects strongly recommended for funding total $438,545, which leaves $240,955 to be awarded if none of the yeses, if nothing changes within the yes pool. And again, we shifted, and as of now, I think it worked quite well, where we asked reviewers to mark as a yes the applications that they felt were critical to the business or to like the larger agricultural and forestry like systems. So those are very strong yeses coming. The yeses are very strong yeses coming from reviewers. And then the maybes are also strong applications, and some of the key questions or considerations that put them into the maybe category are noted in column O of the spreadsheet, which is where notes from the review conversations were captured by Lily. Thank you again, Lily, for playing that role. So I think now, Abby, before we jump into discussing the private financial information and like contractual decisions, would be the time to make a motion.
Yeah, I just want to check any questions about the process. So again, this is relatively new for us to use executive session to do the applicant review and deliberation. So the idea is I will in just a moment make a motion for us to move to executive session where we'll discuss kind of the details and the personal information around applications. We'll make kind of a recommendation for decision in that executive session, then we will stop the recording, and then we'll come back afterwards, and I'll make an additional motion around kind of a summary of where we're landing and what's next. But I just want to make sure, is everyone feeling comfortable, or are there any questions about this process before I make that executive session motion? All right, so it's a little lengthy, so bear with me. So I move for executive session for us to discuss the grant applications for business enhancement because the board will be deliberating about potential future grants and assessing assessing and discussing personal and confidential or proprietary business information that could invade applicants' privacy or otherwise cause harm. And the underlying records are exempt from disclosure under the Public Records Act. Premature public knowledge of the board's contract and grant deliberations would place the Working Lands Executive Board at a substantial disadvantage when later negotiating grants and contracts and discussing potential grants and/or applicants' personal or confidential business information could harm applicants or put them at a substantial disadvantage. Be looking for a second to that motion to move to executive session.
I'll second that.
Thanks, Donna. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any of those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Great, so the motion carries and we can stop the recording. Okay, well, welcome back to the Working Lands Enterprise Board meeting on February 18th, 2025. I've just come out of executive discussion session and had conversations around grant applications, and I want to move for the board to consider supporting Agency of Ag staff to move forward on the negotiations with the desired slate of 18 applications. This would be conducting risk assessments and having grantee conversations with each of the 18 applications, and then staff would return to the board with recommendations on final award decisions. Do I have a second to that motion? See Megan Camp's hand. Thanks, Megan. All right, and we can now call for a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Nay. Any abstentions? Vote. Great. All right, so the motion carries. Thanks to all the great deliberation and conversations and to staff on the upcoming next steps. Appreciate everyone's work and focus. It's a long time, especially through the lunch hour, to do those very detailed conversations. All right, so I think we're ready to move into the next few and final items on the agenda, which begins with administrative updates from Commerce, Forestry, and Agriculture. Curious if Forestry wants to go first. So either Oliver or Catherine. If now is not a good time, we can move to Commerce first. Yeah, I think so. I'm not actually seeing either Oliver.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't see them either. So, I'll be very brief.
Go for it, Elizabeth.
Sure. Again, we're in the, making our legislative asks, testimony. So don't have a lot of updates. Yet again, the BGAP, the business, emergency gap assistance, we're still making our way through, not only the, agency, the ACCD side, but the ag side. They should be dwindling that, they should be winding that down shortly. So still working our way through that, but other than working with the legislature, I don't really have anything.
Thanks, Elizabeth. It is indeed the kind of focus this time of year. So I think that's a pretty ubiquitous update across all three agency department. I can say
Well-
very quick. Yeah, go ahead.
I guess I should mention that a number of us gave testimony last week to Senate Ag and House Ag. Abby, me, Claire, Elizabeth, Commissioner Fitzko. Am I leaving any? Oh, Alicia, so sorry. All told the working land story. Very receptive audience. My first time giving testimony. I don't know how much I liked it. But anyway, they were very receptive. Great job putting it together for us, Elizabeth and Claire. And if you haven't seen the impact report, you need to see it. It's fabulous.
Totally agree. Yeah, I was going to just build on that, but go ahead, Ellen.
Oh, just really quickly. So the Working Lands Coalition is proposing a $2 million one-time additional ask to House and Senate Ag committees. And Denise Smith from VCRD and I will be testifying on Friday to make that ask of the House Ag Committee to put it in their budget memo. Again, this is the coalition. I am not speaking on behalf of the board. I'll be speaking on behalf of the Vermont Sustainable Jobs Fund as a member of the coalition. Obviously, this was not part of the governor's recommended budget, so this is outside of our official board work, but I just wanted to alert you all to know, because we've talked about it in the past, the important role that the coalition plays in helping to advocate for funding levels for the board's work. So just to know that that is happening. Also, Denise Smith will be presenting the added request to the Rural Caucus at their a hearing that they're having, I think, tomorrow. So.
Yeah, thanks for that update, Ellen. I'm happy to jump in from the agency and then turn it to others that here from the Agency of Agriculture if you want to offer any additional administrative updates. I agree with Elizabeth. This has been primarily focused on, weeks focused on the legislature. I also want to kind of demonstrate real appreciation for Elizabeth and Claire in preparing the Working Lands testimony. This was the first year that I remember in recent time where there was a separate presentation on the Working Lands program in the House Ag Committee and then in the Senate Ag Committee, and then a second time slot at a different time inviting grantees to come in and tell their stories of success and accomplishment and value to their businesses. And I think that approach and kind of division of presentation has been very effective, both to fill the appropriate time slot that the committees have available, but also to really kind of offer the background through the, the various board and staff presentation, and then share the real heart and impact of stories by hearing from grantees. And thank you, Claire, for putting the impact report in the chat. I agree. It is a great report. It's wonderful to show both the cumulative and fiscal year 24 investment benefits. I think the other update that I would offer quickly from the Agency of Agriculture is just where we are in kind of our funding opportunity round. So we have lots of opportunity for applying for resources actively open or under review. So that includes both state funds as well as federal resources. And the challenge, as we alluded to earlier, around the federal funding is just recognizing that so many programs are currently being reviewed or considered or maybe even possibly paused in their ability to process reimbursed payments or authorize spending of federal funds. And so while that's each program is under that review, that federal program is under that review. We're also operating from the standpoint that encouraging all active awardees that currently have a contract or a grant with the Agency of Agriculture to continue their project as planned, unless they have heard otherwise per sort of, particular circumstance. But in an effort to just sort of maintain the economic development progress within the ag and food and forestry sector that the Agency of Agriculture has funding for, it truly is our hope that projects can continue as planned and will, bit by bit, slowly receive the authorization that we need to be able to spend or reimburse on federal funds. And we are having routine conversations with either federal program points of contact or with the congressional delegation from a more general perspective around the impacts of kind of what's happening around federal funding and budgeting currently. Any questions about that from board members or staff? It's an unprecedented and pretty, I think, uncomfortable time in so many ways. And this is where government has the ability, based on the cash and kind of on hand that we have access to really kind of carry projects and funding forward on schedule as best as possible. I know that not all organizations or individual businesses have that same ability. So just want to acknowledge that we're in a unique circumstance compared to others. Yeah, Liz.
Thanks, Abby. It's really helpful to hear. I was just wondering, I'm hearing kind of like different like things related to NRCS, none of which are firsthand info. And I'm wondering if you've been coordinating with NRCS during this time and if you might give a synthesis of that, especially related to like farmer payments.
I can't, not because I don't want to. I'm not feeling kind of informed enough to be able to offer kind of any particular update on that. I don't know if anyone else from our agency feels that they can. Trevor?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I do have an email from Travis Thomason with the approved NRCS talking points about the federal financial freeze. I'm happy to put this language in the chat, but it doesn't really provide much detail. So I'll drop it in the chat for folks, but it is pretty, as with a lot of these announcements and the language, it's pretty limited.
Yeah, thanks for providing that, Trevor. I think if there's specific questions, Liz, that are coming up, either that you're hearing, or if anyone is hearing on the producer side or from the service provision end, I think we're happy to kind of elevate those conversations to our leadership and to other partners if we can be helpful in trying to get a more nuanced answer.
Thanks, Abby. Yeah, I've just been thinking, I don't think it impacts the Working Lands funding stream as much, but certainly DBIC, the water quality grants program that the HCB runs. I'm just thinking about how so many of those projects are interconnected, and I'm definitely working on my own side to understand that a little bit better and coordinate with NRCS myself.
Yeah. Great, Trevor, thanks for putting those in the chat. Trevor, anything else that you want to offer as part of administrative update?
I don't think so. I guess I would just encourage folks to share with us, with myself, with Elizabeth or Claire. I'm trying to kind of track a lot of the impacts of this. I think it's helpful in sharing with our congressional delegation and other folks in positions of power and influence to really understand what the actual impacts are. You see a lot of reporting across the national level and even international level of the financial freeze and how it's impacting staff and projects and funding. And I've attempted to try to track some of that internally, to just try to make sure that that information is getting to people who have, some ability to share that story and hopefully make decisions around it.
Thank you.
I'll, as far as Northern Border goes for our nonprofit, service providers or other organizations, excuse me, they are going ahead with funding as usual. As you may know, it's federally sourced. They had put a pause on, the spring round, but it is back up and running. Deadline has been moved back for pre-applications to March 7th. They are also back to, fulfilling reimbursement requests. So barring anything else, we're looking forward to a spring round, hopefully a fall round, and then we'll go from there. But that is up and running. And I don't know if anybody saw or has much dealings with USDA RD, but they are down a staff member as of Friday who was probationary. Poor guy started in November and he was let go Friday. Big loss, but he will land on his feet, I'm sure. So.
Thanks, Elizabeth. And I would just say, in addition to the language and the circumstance feeling both complicated and sometimes vague, it's also changing, rapidly. So I think it's hard to have a real set response that kind of weathers time. So I think there's certain programs that are, no word from the administrative end on one day, and then days later there's a recommendation or a statement made that it's paused, and vice versa. Some programs are under review and making it through that review and then authorized to re-engage disbursement of funds. So I think that's what's hard about this time and this kind of period. I know that our agency in the economic development arena is sort of looking at the end of end of February as like a critical time from when we've, received many of the executive orders and federal funding freezes, and when we hope to see if disbursement of funds have been kind of like effective or being released, and if not, kind of looking at March as the time frame to maybe doing some greater follow-up and engagement with the congressional delegation and other leadership nationally. But again, lots of things could happen in the next 2 weeks for sure. Okay. Did we see anyone from FPR or anyone's joined us, right, that wanted to offer an FPR update? Okay. Great. What about other announcements?
Abby, I do know that to follow up on Elizabeth's MBRC response update, the department, their MBRC grant that's covering the implementation of the Forest Future Roadmap did receive their notice to proceed. So that was released and is moving forward, which is great news.
Great. Are there other local organizational updates that folks want to offer in this time? So this is for any kind of announcements of updates of any kind, and then we'll also take any public comment from members of the public that may be here. Laura.
Thanks, Abby. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew I'm going to be leading a series of Future Vermont Dairy conversations over the months of March and April. So I'll be in every county, live and in person, and Franklin and Addison twice, and then a series of 4 virtual meetings that are more focused. So sheep and goat, young and beginning, processors, and general public virtual sessions in May. And that will really help develop a a roadmap for areas that the agency can put their attention and funding when there's funding opportunities available. So that's going to be, the schedule is going to be published this week. They're open to the public. So if anybody's interested in attending, I'd welcome your face to be at those meetings. And yeah, generally just open to the dairy community, whether it's goat, sheep, or cow, any size, any production practices, hoping to get a good turnout across all of these meetings.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, Laura. So this is a really big opportunity from the Agency of Agriculture to really focus on kind of a future vision for dairy in Vermont. So Laura both provides much of the strategy around dairy in Vermont and leads the Northeast Dairy Business Innovation Center with her team, but this is really focused on the future of dairy in Vermont and wanting to make sure that the agency has a presence in every county for each of those conversations. So we'll announce that. You'll see announcements for that. And so either please forward them along to constituents that you think might be interested to share perspective or attend yourselves. That'd be great. Okay, Liz.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. We'll definitely keep an eye out on that. I just wanted to say that if any of you are working with businesses that you think could benefit from some support around business planning, financial management, HR, transfer and succession planning, we have a little bit of room in the Farm and Forest Viability Program right now. It's for, we work with almost any business at almost any stage or scale, as long as they're not in their very startup period. So this is a good time for folks to get started before the intensity of the production season, or many people's, but not everyone's production season begins. So if you have any questions about that, I'll put Callie's email in the chat and she's the person to reach out to. You're also welcome to email me.
Thank you, Liz. Yeah, good time of year to be thinking about that. Any other announcements? And I'll just also voice any members of the public, I don't see them, but any members of the public that wanted to make public comment today, now is also a time in the agenda for that opportunity. All right, well, I don't think it would be a terrible thing to have a motion to adjourn a few minutes ahead of schedule.
This is Alicia making a motion to adjourn at 12:52.
Thanks, Alicia. How about a second? And Donna's offering a second, and Kathy, but I guess Donna, I saw your hand first. Sorry, Kathy. Okay, do a quick vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That will be abstentions. We're all here. Great. Thanks everyone for a really robust conversation. A lot of support to Lily and Elizabeth and Claire as the team, kind of getting all the applications and information shared, and to everyone that were reviewers and engaged in the deliberations and conversation during the meeting. We appreciate all of your effort and your commitment and contribution to the Working Lands program. And look forward to hearing what's next at the meeting in March.
Hope you feel better.
Thank you all.
Thank you all so much.
Thanks all.
Take care, everyone.